Morning.
Good morning and welcome to today's meeting of the Boston Public Facilities Commission. I'm going to turn it over to TT and then we'll talk about a public comment period at the very beginning and then the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Chair Craven. Good morning, Commissioners. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live. I will turn it back to Chair Craven so we can note for the record that a public comment request have been made for today's meeting. And the chair will speak as to those public comment requests. Chair Craven?
Thank you, TT. So today we have welcome commissioners and we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Catherine Craven, Chair. Commissioner Manoli, introduce yourself.
Larry O'Malley, Commissioner.
And Commissioner
Wright, Commissioner.
Thank you. We're going to have a public comment period at the very beginning of this meeting, followed by the remainder of the agenda. I see two public commenters, TT.
Yes. So I think we will know.
Are there any others?
I
It
do
looks
see.
like there's a third.
Yeah, it
fourth.
looks like iPhone 5. I'm not sure if.
Okay, so I'm going to call in order for a 3-minute public comment. You can address the commissioners to the matter that you're interested in after 3 minutes. And there's no Q&A, unfortunately, with the commission during public comment, but you get the right to comment on the topic in front of the commission today. So first I'm going to call on Dr. Eleanor Larissa Abdel-Khalak-Williams for 3 minutes of public comment.
Yes, hi, greetings. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to read what I have written. Regarding the name of the library in Nubian Square, we should not have to ask anyone for what should already be. The name Nubian represents unity and inclusivity in a city that has historically perpetuated division, exclusivity, marginalization, and white privilege, to name a few of the ongoing harms experienced within our city by African Americans in particular. The fact that the former Dudley Branch Library has yet to be named the Nubian Branch Library to this day speaks loud and clear of an ongoing existing bias and the city of Boston's struggle to hear and be responsive to African Americans' layered needs and rights as a people. The renaming of the square and station are community wins, symbolic of African heritage, collective effort, and legacy. Naming the library Nubian is only fitting after the humble apology of the mayor for the harms inflicted upon African American residents, present and past, through racist policies, procedures, and the city's failure to properly address them. The next step to an apology is taking meaningful, targeted action that results in the repairing of harm caused. Proper action in this case is honoring the people's voice, expressed through their vote to rename the square Nubian Square, the library Nubian Square, and not restricting that win with limits to potential impact. I cannot help but feel the lack of an automatic response to change the name of the library to the Nubian Branch Library as a slap in the face of our community's win, and what it took to get that win and having the square renamed. The official Boston Public Library website reads the Roxbury Branch, formerly Dudley, opened in its current location in April 1978. If the library was formerly Dudley, then why is it now considered the Roxbury Branch and not automatically named the Nubian Branch? To my knowledge, the surrounding existing libraries typically share the same name as the square where it is located. Should that not have been an automatic for the library in Nubian Square? Instead, the default was Roxbury. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Our vote for the name change was our declaration as a people, along with the supportive members of the Boston community, that we want to see our culture, contributions, and African heritage accepted, embraced, and honored. The actual act of naming for ourselves is part of that heritage. For us, our person's name, one person's name, does not signify our struggle through collective effort. As a community, we continue to experience the perpetuation of denial and delay to what should be surrendered as ours. Instead, we are subjected to putting our energy towards yet another fight, denied the opportunity to simply rest and enjoy the fullness of our victory as a community. I thank God for the strength that He's given us. I believe some of our people and many others have difficulty understanding and or do not wish to embrace the idea of our being a unified people in name and action and the symbolism of what that stands for in the name of Nubian. Any encouragement from the City of Boston that continues to engage in efforts other than changing the name of the library to Nubian as part of our win and clear cry of what we want, as captured by our votes, is an attempt to ignore us since we've already spoken. It underplays our triumph as a community. Finally, it encourages division by leaving room for alternatives when there should be none. I believe it is important for Mayor Wu and those who work for her to embrace this way of looking at it in order to demonstrate that they actually get the depth of our fight. Otherwise, I see a gap in their true ability to understand and support us and our layered needs as a people in this city. Our beloved Sarah Ann Shaw was a friend to our family and a pillar in our community, city and beyond. She should very well receive her well-deserved recognition as one of our legendary ancestors. However, that is a separate fight from this particular win. I agree with Siddiqui Kambon's suggested solution to how to honor our community as well as our beloved Sarah Ann Shaw's legacy. The renaming of the square was a collective effort and win. Now we want what should have come with it. That is the changing of the name of the library in Nubian Square to Nubian Library, more specifically the exact title captured by the Nubian Square Coalition. No chains on our vision. Sincerely, Eleanor. Larissa Abdulhalik Williams. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to Mr. Campbell. 3 minutes, Mr. Campbell.
Hear me?
I can hear you. We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, let me just say very quickly that it's unfortunate the fact that there seems to be a lot of misinformation and in many respects injustice as it pertains to the treatment of our community. Look, we've been on a 10-year campaign starting with the issue around renaming the square to Nubian Square on December the 19th of 2019, and based on that vote, the legislature voted to change the name of Dudley Station to Nubian Station. And so we've been on a 6-year campaign regarding the library. And let me just say very quickly that, we've been misled. I'm assuming Mr. Leonard is on here. We were told by the Boston Public Library Trustee Board that the naming aspect was in their hands. And they came up with the Roxbury Public Branch Library, knowing full well that they didn't have that power. And so I think they believed that we were just going to go away and would never have that knowledge. Anyhow, just moving forward, let me just say that first of all, that in the dedication of the rehab of the library, Mr. Leonard said they recognize the fact that there's a substantial sentiment in the Roxbury community for the Nubian Library name. And so let me just say that we were stunned when we heard about the latest revelation in terms of, and let me be clear in terms of what Eleanor was saying, is that we had a lot of respect for the late Sarah Ann Shaw. And so what we proposed, rather than it being called the Shaw Library, is that it be called the Nubian Library, and that, because we were talking about having a community wall of honor in the library anyhow, listing, Chuck Turner, Sarah Ann Shaw, Melanie Cass, and others. And another suggestion was, why can't there be the wall of honor and a room in the library named after Sarah Ann Shaw? So it's very disturbing. We've been getting, let me just be very candid. I saw on your website yesterday documentation dated with today's date saying that you'd already approved the name, and that there's also documentation there from a letter from Mr. Leonard with the July 2nd date on, which says to me that evidently something had been approved prior to this meeting, because why would the July 2nd date be on there if something hadn't already been addressed behind the scenes? So let me just say that, like I said before, in terms of the whole piece around the public comment, we've got so many people that wanted to comment, and it's really insulting and disturbing that the wishes of our community is being ignored. We got 87% of the vote in terms of the Nubian name, overwhelming number, demonstrating the fact that our community wants the Nubian name, and we're trying to understand why is it that we as a community are making a strong statement that we want the Nubian Library name, and yet an alternative is presented. If anything else, once we found out that the library did not have the power to change the name, and Mr. Leonard recognized the fact that the substantial sentiment from the Nubian name, why was the Nubian library name leapfrog and the Shaw piece proposed? Once again, this is not a reflection about Sarah Ann, because we have a lot of respect for her. But there's something going on here that is very, very questionable and disturbing in terms of how this whole process is being promoted and actually happening. And let me just say, I don't have the time like that, but let me just say this, that we don't consider this process to be legitimate because the community is being excluded. I would suggest, and I put this out here in the past, that if you really want to get the sentiment of the community, then you would convene a meeting at the library in Nubian Square for the community. And I can tell you right now, we are upset because of the fact we were told that this was not going to be in person, it was going to be Zoom. And then no information went out for the community at all. And so we're of the belief that no one wants to really hear what the community has to say, because if in fact you did an open forum for the community around the name change, you will find that all kinds of people will be there saying, we want the Nubian Library name. And so we're just saying, from the perspective of how you function, we understand you're going to do this today. I think something's already been rubber stamped in the background that excludes the wishes of the community. What's being said here now, in terms of legitimacy, that you as a group who have that power say, you know what, we will convene a meeting at the, what we want to call Nubian Library for the community, because that's something that Mr. Leonard had promised and never happened. So I'm just saying that we would hope that you're sensitive to the fact that we don't consider, and when I say we, we're talking about the community. Because people have been saying, well, how do we connect with this? And why is it in person? And so the integrity of this whole process is in question in the minds of our community. And being very candid, there's suspicion that there's been some backdoor activity going on that gives the appearance that there's consideration of how we feel about it, but the decision's already been made that there's not going to be a Nubian Library name, and for some reason, there's a sentiment out there, not in our community, but outside of our community, saying, look, we've got too much Nubian coming up out here, and we can't allow any more. So I'm calling on you as the group that can make that decision to say, you know what, we could make that decision today, although I think something's already been made, but we are willing to convene a meeting at the library in Nubian Square for the community to testify. And let me just close by saying, essentially, we've led efforts to have the former Washington Park renamed Malcolm X Park and New Dudley Street, and you know, the whole thing around what I just mentioned. But when we did the whole piece around Washington Park to Malcolm X Park, what happened was that the then Parks and Recreation Department, I did a presentation to them down at City Hall. They convened the meeting at the Shelburne Recreation Center in 1988, and the community came out and testified. And based on the testimony of the community, the board for Parks and Recreation voted unanimously in favor of the Malcolm X Park name. So what we're saying to you now, in 2025, in the name of legitimacy and fairness, that you would convene a meeting at the library, inviting the community to testify in regards to how they feel about the name. And I can tell you right now that without a doubt, and this includes our young people, and I'll tell you something right now. Last year I did a presentation to some young people from Madison Park High School and also the O'Brien. And a young man said,
Excuse
you know,
me.
brother.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is a reminder that the 3 minutes have passed.
Okay, I understand that. I would just hope that you understand what's being said here in terms of, we don't consider this to be a legitimate forum in terms of that final decision right now, and we would hope you would consider the fact that the community wants that Nubian Library name, and that you convene that meeting and hear from the community, which is promised to us and never happened.
Thank you, Mr. Cambone. So I think, not seeing any other public commenters on the screen, that it's safe to move forward with the remainder of the agenda so we can hear about the project.
If I may, I just want to make sure that we have this for clarity of record. So far, we have 2 participants that have spoken. There appears to be 1 other participant on here that is unidentified. If that person wants to read their name for the record, and if it's okay with the chair, if they may speak
Sure.
before we move forward.
My name is Jamada Smith. Am I considered that other person, or, I mean, my name is clear?
Yes, it looks like your box is highlighted right now, so
Okay.
We just can't see you, Ms. Smith.
Yeah, you don't want to see me right now. I just kind of found out about the time and everything, and so I just got on, and I'm not satisfied with my appearance. But I don't know if I didn't think I was going to have an opportunity to say something. However, thank you for this second. Am I allowed to say something about?
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And basically, I'm really in accord. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the community. I have a very strong pulse for, I love the rock, I'm a Roxburyite. I'm gonna tell you right now, I find no fault with saying I love Mayor Wu, I'll say that. Actually, I have pictures of her holding up Nubian Square sign when we were voting for that. She also said that she supported it in everything. And so I know that she has a very fine sentiment for this thing. And I don't know how it went awry. But quickly, I have 3 minutes, but Sunday, I had the pleasure of driving into Cambridge. And as I was driving into down Massachusetts Avenue, I saw this beautiful bus. And the bus said, 1 Nubian Station. And I tell you, I just could see my ancestors, how they would be so proud that a bus going into Cambridge and coming out, going from Cambridge to Nubian Station. And it's something that it does for the people. We know that Dorchester, to me, is primarily an Irish-like community. You know St. Patrick's and so forth. You know that the north side is Italian. You know that Chinatown is for the Chinese people. Boston is a melting pot. And so there should be no fault with having an area that happens to be called Nubian. It doesn't have to mean Ungawa Black Power. It just means we have an appreciation for all cultures. And this is something that we have to grasp hold of, especially African Americans, because we use this term POC, I call it POC, people of color. And you have the Haitian community, you have the Puerto Rican community, and you have the Jamaican community. And those are our sisters and brothers. But when it comes down to the plain old African American, we have nothing, we have no language because it was taken from us. And so I find no fault. And I'm speaking on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves at this time. And I'm gonna thank you very much, and I hope that you reconsider, because it was my understanding that the library did not have the authority for name changing. And then I think I saw a document, and correct me, Mr. Irish, Dion, I think it must be a male, I'm not sure, Chief of Operations. I saw some language that allowed him to come in, and some group got together, and this is when they were formulating this thing for Sarah Ann, which Eleanor mentioned, our family loves dearly, and her family. But the point of the matter is, they fixed it. They fixed it. My father said rules are for people you don't want. So they came up with a rule that would give the library the authority to change this name. And and some people are very passionate. They're very angry about it, but they're laying low. And so whatever, if you all are in that top position to do something about it, then this is a plea This is a request and this is a cry. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your heartfelt comments. Ms. Smith. MTT?
Thank you.
Anyone?
There appears to be one more person on this call right now. It looks like a Samuel Pierce. If that person would like to speak, if the chair will allow.
Yes, 3 minutes, please. Mr. Pierce.
Yes, thank you very much. I actually wanted to speak, first of all, thank this body for meeting today. I wanted to just bring everyone's recollection back to how we got to this process. Back in 2013, we actually changed the name of Nubian Square. And then the state went on to change the name of the Nubian Station. And then I think some mixed messages happened, and the name of the library was changed from Dudley Library to the name Roxbury Library. But now we have found that you can't really name the library after the district, right? Like there's no Dorchester Library, there's no Jamaica Plain Library. They all have a specific name to the branch. And so the community really had been looking forward to the name change of the library actually being the Nubian Library. And a lot of people voted in Roxbury. They voted really for the whole package because I thought that this was going to be a whole package, including the name change of the library as well as the street, because there's still a Dudley Street. And so we are trying to hopefully come to a consensus. I know that they have updated some of the language, giving the building authority the exclusive right to rename the building. And ultimately, we're going to be looking at the common denominator. And the common denominator was these were buildings named after slaveholders. So the Dudley Library, and then we were also looking at the Faneuil Library. And so I don't want to get off kilter since we're talking specifically about the Dudley Library, but we know that the city of Boston has to be looked at with a holistic lens. And so if we look at it holistically, each community wants to be proud of their library. They want to go to the library, they want to be excited about the library. And Sarah Ann Shaw, I think, was a leader and a wonderful person. Everyone in the community loves her. And she, ironically, was behind the coalition helping to change both Dudley Square, Dudley Station, and the library. So to try to then somehow name the library after her postmortemly, after she's gone, and she can't speak for herself saying that, no, she actually supports the name of the Nubian Library, I think would be disrespectful to her memory. I think if we do want to honor her memory, maybe we do something like name a room, or we create some type of Heroes of Roxbury, part of the library or something, so that we're not just singling out one person. Because I know that she was a community builder, and she would have wanted really the community to lead the name change, not just a few individuals that may or may not even live in Nubian Square. So thank you very much for letting me speak today, and I will give it back to the people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pierce. Okay, TT, we're going to move into the agenda and hear the matter at hand. And I would just kindly ask that the public commenters just go off camera just so we can not confuse the rest of the public as to who's speaking. Thank you so much. Because I'm going to call up Chief of Operations, Dion Irish, in a few moments.
Thank you, Craven. Before we get started, I'm going to briefly turn this over to Colleen. Colleen, please note for the record the remainder of the meeting participants before we start before I read the agenda matter and turn it over to Dion Irish, Chief of Operations.
Thank you, TT. Please unmute your device and confirm your presence when I call your name, beginning roll call with the commission. Catherine Craven, Chair.
Colleagues,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I think we had the introduction for the commission had introduced themselves earlier at the beginning. I understand it's a little out of sequence today just because we want to make sure that the public comment was allotted the time provided. Let's go ahead and start with the remainder of the participants, which is the mayor's office and BPL, and then any other participants on the call who will not be speaking.
All right, thank you, I apologize for that. With the Mayor's Office and BPL, Dion Irish, Chief of Operations, Mayor's Office, David Leonard, President, Boston Public Library. I'll read for the record the remainder of the individuals in attendance. Attendees do not need to unmute your device. Pamela Carver, Clerk of the Board and Executive Assistant to the President of BPL. Keith Williams, Deputy Chief of Operations, Mayor's Office. T.T. Lee, Legal Advisor. And Catherine Pendleton, Article Clerk. And this concludes roll call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colleen. We will now turn this over to Dion Irish, Chief of Operations for the Mayor's Office, and David Leonard, President for the Boston Public Library. This vote request is concerning the renaming of the Boston Public Library Roxbury Branch located at 149 Dudley Street, Nubian Square, Roxbury. This is pursuant to the City of Boston Ordinance 8-11, naming of municipal buildings. In policy, the Public Facilities Commission received a petition from the Boston Public Library and written letter from the Honorable Mayor Michelle Wu supporting the proposed renaming of the Boston Public Library Roxbury Branch to the Shaw Roxbury Branch of the Boston Public Library. Chief Irish, if you please present the vote, please.
Thank you, Titi. Good morning, Chair Craven, Commissioner Mamoli, Commissioner Wright. Thank you for holding this meeting to take up this particular matter. Thank you for your service on this important body where you preside over so many matters of great significance to our schools, municipal services, and to our community. As a former member of the Public Facilities Commission, I understand the role that you play. I appreciate the efforts that you and the staff have made over the years to provide operational transparency to the public on the work of the PFC. Example by your meetings now being live broadcasted and as well as being recorded. So I want to thank you for your service. I also want to thank you for the work that you did last year to adopt a written policy for transparency and clarity on how the Commission would exercise your authority to rename municipal buildings pursuant to City of Boston Code Ordinance 8-11.1. That ordinance was enacted in 2013, approved by City Council, signed by the Mayor. Our search of the records finds like one example of when that ordinance was actually followed, and that was in the case of the Bruce Golding Municipal Building in Nubian Square. And the departments, libraries, school departments have been using different processes to rename buildings. And so there was a need for us to bring everything back through the PFC and with a clear understanding of the policy that would help enact the ability to exercise the power. In the case of a library, it was agreed upon by the PFC last June that the library would need to have support of either the City Council, in every case the support of the Mayor, and in the case of a library, the support of the Library Board of Trustees. Today I'm here along with David Leonard, the President of the Boston Public Library System, to present a renaming request that meets the requirements of this policy. This request has an army of support from Roxbury leaders, community members, and elected officials across the city. Unfortunately, folks did not anticipate being able to speak today, so I will just mention a few of the folks who testified at the BPL trustee board meeting in June and who are in strong support of this. Elfrida Harris, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Charlotte Golar-Ritchie, Joyce Fargo, Alma Wright, Toy Burton, who started a petition on this, and the list goes on and on. As required by PFC's renaming policy, this proposal has the support of Mayor Michelle Wu and was overwhelmingly approved by the Board of Trustees of the Boston Public Library. The request to rename the former Dudley Library, which was renamed after extensive renovations and following the renaming of Nubian Square, as a result of the 2019 November municipal non-binding ballot question in that year. I am proud to have played a small role in that effort, as I was commissioner of the election department at that time, and I just suggest that this was a way to hear the voices of folks in Roxbury as it relates to what they would like the name of the square to be. Subsequent to the major renovations of the library, the BPL trustees elected to rename the Dudley Library the Roxbury Branch Library. Now, President Leonard and I come before you with a request to rename this library the Shaw Roxbury Branch Library in honor of Sarah Ann Shaw. Sarah Ann Shaw was a pioneering Black journalist in Boston, a female journalist in Boston. She was a community activist. She was a promoter of education and literacy. She was a champion and friend of the Roxbury Branch Library. She was also a humble servant and foot soldier for Roxbury and for Boston. I appreciate humbleness. Folks who are humble care more about the cause than about credit. So it's up to us who know what they brought to the table, who know how much they contributed. It's up to us to give them their flowers. Sarah Ann Shaw was Roxbury through and through. She had a multi-decade relationship with the Roxbury Branch Library. Alma Wright, an educator of more than 50 years, recalls how Sarah Ann Shaw would often visit her schools, encouraging kids to get library cards. This is one of the many stories we heard about Sarah Ann and her relationship with this library, including her service on the Friends of the Library, where she helped with fundraising, pushed for diverse collections, and assisted with educational programming. The mayor has heard loudly that Sarah Ann should be honored at this library, but she has also heard that we need to honor others like Mimi Jones, for example, who have greatly contributed to this branch. And we intend to meet with the friends and staff and others to get feedback on how we can honor others within this library. We also commit to acknowledging the library's location, which we fully support the name Nubian, and the library, so that we can pay homage on this building to make sure that Nubian Square is also visible and known that this library, where this library is located. Roxbury has a Nubian Square that includes General Gordine Park, the Bruce Bowling Building, and the Shaw Roxbury Library would be an awesome addition. I'd like to pass it over now to President David Leonard to talk more about his process and perhaps address some of the questions that have come up regarding branch names and how they are named.
Thank you, Chief Irish. Good morning, Commissioners. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you in support of this particular petition that is before you today. Chief Irish has done an amazing job of presenting the history and context for not only this petition, but the process leading up to where we are today. I will confirm that a petition did come to the City of Boston from the community to take up the name change to the Shaw Roxbury branch of the Boston Public Library. That was transmitted to the library for consideration, and on June 18th, the Boston Public Library trustees took up the matter. There were over 20 written submissions, the vast majority of which were in support of the name. We also heard testimony from, I believe, over 15 individuals at that meeting. And while there were some differing ideas about how best to recognize the legacy and memory of Sarah Ann Shaw, almost no one disputed that she was in, that it would be our honor to recognize her, and that she is someone of merit. I got to know her personally in the latter stages of her life and worked with her at the Roxbury branch that was then the Dudley process that later became the Roxbury branch, and so personally invested in seeing a way to recognize her. As you heard in your public comment that you took earlier today, there is not unanimous consent or opinion about the best way to do this, but the majority that we have heard from supported the change to the Roxbury, or the Shaw Roxbury branch of the Boston Public Library. Yes, at Nubian Square. To that end, the trustees of the library, with 12 trustees attending, voted 11 with 1 abstention in favor of this change. That petition now moves to this body for further consideration and we hope a vote for approval. I would make some additional notes based upon public comment that you heard this morning. There is no doubt that you are hearing, and we are in agreement, that there is passion for the work of the library and the role a library space plays in its community. There is support for the legacy, name, and memory of Sarah Ann Shaw herself. There is reference to the process prior to your adopting the new policy. The trustees' authority stems from the the Acts of Incorporation of 1878, which had always been interpreted to mean that the trustees had authority over naming. We do, however, recognize the authority of the Public Facilities Commission, given the more recent city ordinance, and the trustees have also voted to adopt its naming procedures to take account of this new policy, which is also why we are here before you today. One of the speakers, Mr. Kamgan, has cited my previous comments. I have always recognized that there is a strong set of voices in favor of the alternative name, and I continue to recognize that. However, the majority of voices that we heard from, and certainly in May of 2020, when the trustees took up the original name change from Dudley to Roxbury, the majority of individuals that we had heard from favored the Roxbury name, although again, not unanimously so at that time. And so I also just want to affirm that there is a mixture of practices of geographic names of branches throughout our system. There are 25 branches. There are several of the larger ones that are named for the neighborhood as a whole. That includes Brighton and Mattapan, West Roxbury, Hyde Park, now Roxbury itself. There are certain neighborhoods that are have more than one branch, and in those situations, the smaller branch or the satellite branch is often referred to or named for the local immediate vicinity that it lives in. So we actually do have practices of naming branches for the whole neighborhood, as well as some that are named for individual localities within a broader neighborhood. So with those clarifications and comments, I'm happy to take any additional questions if you have them, but as Chief Irish has presented the petition, I'm happy to simply close my comments, indicating my personal support as the process calls for, and representing to you that the trustees have voted in favor of this petition.
Thank you, President Leonard, and thank you, Chief Irish. The matter in front of the Board of the Commissioners today, TT, are you going to, is there any other information, or is it time for discussion and vote?
At this time, the Commission may ask additional questions or provide further comments, or may motion to approve or deny.
Okay. I just have a question for Chief Irish, because you mentioned several times that there were community leaders and also elected officials that came together to support the name. And as you know, as a former member of this commission, we rely heavily upon the scaffolding and the support of other public processes, which is why we generally don't have requests for public comment at these meetings. So generally there are there's a lot of public process that goes on prior, and I know that the board of the Boston Public Library and the city has done that work. But I just wanted to make sure that you reaffirmed that there was lots of public process and lots of opportunity already before this vote.
Yeah, there was a lot of engagement. There was a petition started by one community member, Tory Burton. Many others approached the mayor and asked the mayor to consider this. We officially asked BPL in March of this year to bring this forward to the trustees, which it was discussed at the May meeting, and they subsequently scheduled a June 18th special meeting for folks to be able to provide public testimony for or against the library name.
Okay, so again, the matter in front of the commission today has been duly run through all of the different organizations in the city that have to do with the naming of these things before it gets to the commission. So I'm going to ask Commissioners Wright or Mamoli if they have any comments or thoughts.
I have no questions other than, again, I'm glad to hear, as Chief Irish pointed out, that there have been public meetings and so forth. This has been out there, and like all issues, not everybody is 100% on one item.
Yeah, and I would echo, success in our processes is through process, and I just want to commend the chief and the team and the library as well for their process.
Okay, so given the due process that we rely upon as a commission, that we've heard about and have evidence of, and we're thankful for the public commenters today, and I'm sure that there will be more discussion after today as well. Do I have a motion to pass this petition?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. This petition for vote number 1 is hereby approved. This concludes BPL's agenda for today's meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.